that, then festivals are just kind of a waste of time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, that's really not the case. I mean, you can get hired, you can get seen by the right people, and then maybe get put like Hannibal Buress. You know, his career kicked it up hugely because he got seen at a festival, and then he did because of that he did Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and then Lorne Michaels saw him on that and hired him to like write on SNL for 2 weeks, and then just things kind of progressed from there. And so, I mean, the thing is, the more you get yourself out there, the more opportunities you have. And so, there's no such thing as saying like this avenue is more important than this avenue, or like this avenue is legit and this avenue is not legit. It's just like, yeah, you kind of have to always be pursuing every avenue.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Well, I hope you do whatever it is that you like, festivals or not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not trying to argue with you on your own show. I apologize. It's just
no. I just mean like I was trying to be supportive. Like, you don't have to do festivals, and then you're like, but festivals are good. And I was like, hey, whatever you want to do, man.
Thank you. I mean,
like that's all.
Well,
that's all
yeah,
cool.
I know.
I'm fully supportive of every decision you want to make. You've made great decisions thus far. Who am I to argue?
Well, I've made great decisions that you've known about, and I've made really shitty decisions that no one will ever know about.
That's the beauty. You're smart enough and old enough to have not broadcast them on social media. There's plenty of people I know who broadcast all their bad decisions on social media, and I want to tell them, you know that someday you'll be 45 and not want people to know that, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, my favorite is the person who's like, "Yeah, I'm going to this audition today," or like, "I'm sitting in the offices at NBC waiting for a meeting," and I'm like, you know, if you're going to post that, then you should also be forced to post about being at your shitty temp job 2 days later, feeling horrible about yourself.
Right. When you got rejected by that same group that you were talking about.
Yeah, here's a screenshot of the rejection letter that I received. Yeah, precisely. It's like, don't just share those things. Share it all. Yeah.
It would make me feel better in my life if people did that, if I didn't just see all the happy times on social media all the time.
Social media is just curated, you know what I mean?
It's so good. I gotta get good at it.
Yeah, I mean, all I do is, I was like, yeah, Patrick, you only write, like, today's the saddest day of my life. That's what your social media kind of looks like.
Therapists are too expensive, Amy. So...
I post like once every 6 months, and it's like, isn't life grand? Because if I posted any other time, it'd be like, shut up, you assholes! How dare you? Get out of traffic!
That's the thing is, like, I think when Facebook first started, people just kind of forgot that everybody was paying attention all the time, and because like that's all people do is look at their phones. But now everybody's like, oh, right, you gotta keep a good face. You gotta be like the British during World War II and just get a stiff upper lip and put a brave face on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. What is, as far as good moments, if we're going to curate this ye-old episode here so that it's happy moments, what would be one of the big moments in your life that you think really kept you going, or even if it was a bad one, inspired you to go on to the next level, or did something great?
I mean, the concert film was a big one.
Oh, yeah. Which is
actually,
great,
the actual premiere, seeing it in front of an audience of strangers who were laughing, that was really nice. My first TV spot on Comedy Central was really... that actually was at a point where, I tend to be melodramatic. So I was like, oh God, I'm 24. I was like, oh God, I'm 24 and this thing just isn't happening for me yet. And maybe it'll never happen and I should just quit and go back to college. And then a week later, I had signed a contract to be on TV. And I was like, all right, well, that'll keep me going. Yeah. And then, it's funny, when I became a regular on Best Week Ever was another one like that because, I had spent a long time just working this awful job in a phone center and just feeling really trapped. And, I spent a year and a half working at this phone center job, which is just like too long. Like but it was ultimately really good for me, because there was a point where I was just like, well, the reason why all my friends are moving on and I'm working at a phone center still is because I'm not putting in the work in what I like to think is my craft. Like, I'm not sitting down every day and writing. I'm not like, putting it out there. I'm not constantly going to parties and meeting people and social, all this shit that I don't like to do is basically the work, the work part of the career.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started writing every day, and, and I just put myself in a position where when I auditioned for the show, which a lot of it was just writing jokes every week, I was ready. I trained myself to write jokes every week, and, I really worked my ass off on the audition, because I was like, if I don't get this, I might have to go to law school for real. And and then I was a regular on that for a couple of seasons, and then that led to getting staffed on a writing show. But that first, when I was told, I did the audition. Basically, the way you auditioned for that show was you did an on-camera audition as if you were going to be on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it worked was, if they liked what you did, they would put you on TV and pay you. And if they didn't like what you did, you would never ever hear from them again. And so I hadn't heard from them, and I was like, oh well, I guess that's it for that. And then I get a text from our friend Ann Ensminger. I was at a show in the Upper West Side, and I'll always remember that. I was at a show at a place it's a different. It's called the Broadway Lounge or something, but it used to be called the Underground Lounge, doing a show for Danny McDermott. And I got a text from Ann Ensminger that was like, hey, I'm watching VH1, you're on TV right now. And I was like, oh my God, I guess I passed the audition. And I quit my job that week. And, well, I had like some health issues at the time too. Mm-hmm. So I was going to a clinic, I just found a sliding scale clinic, and the way it worked was like, you gave them your two consecutive weeks paychecks, and they would average those out, and then based on that average is how much they would charge you for a visit. And so I went back to that job to literally work for a half hour, and it's like, I'm sick and I got to go home. And so when you averaged out those two paychecks, it was like I basically got medical care for free at this clinic for a year.
Oh my God!
But then I was able to quit, and my boss really at this, it was like such a horrible job, and they treated you like shit there. And there was a lady, like our boss was a lady we called the Dragon Lady, because her breath, like, it just smelled like something crawled down her throat and died in her stomach, like, really. God. And so I just fucking told her off, and I told her off for the way they treated me, and she was giving me this shit like, I'm sorry, I've never told anyone this story before. I don't know why.
Do it.
She was giving me shit for, like, I wrote it as a blog years ago, but but she was giving me shit for, like, you got to give us 2 weeks notice, and I was like, 2 weeks notice? You guys cancel work at the last minute.
Yeah.
And there's people with kids at this job who, like, are depending on the little amount of money that comes in. And it was like, and her office mate was like laughing behind her back. It was really just kind of giving it to her straight about how shitty the job was and how much I didn't give a shit about her, because I was basically like, because that's the kind of job that doesn't always attract the best and brightest, or people who are like proficient at reading and writing English so well.
Right. Like,
I was just their best worker. And so me leaving suddenly really put them in a hole. And I was like, good. I haven't had a raise in a year and a half. I don't care. Anyway, walking out of that office was like a really, really just sweet moment. It was like one of the best moments of my life. Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, I hear you. I actually had a job. When I first moved to town, I was teaching. I took classes at the improv theater at the New Movement when it first started, and then I started kind of running the classes. So I was the person in charge of getting people in classes, and I had this day job, and the day job decided that they were going to fire me. And when they told me, I was like, I'm great at this job. Why are you firing me? I get along with everyone. There's nothing wrong. They were like, you need to focus on your theater career, and that's what you really love. So we're going to give this to you. And I was like, thanks for giving me poverty.
Thanks for giving me the gift, the shittiest gift.
Yeah. So I was like, even if you had given him 2 weeks, at least they didn't fire you because they were supporting your dream.
Terrible.
Oh yeah, it was the worst. I just remember being like, I see how you think this is a good idea, but I just don't see how I see this is a good idea.
Does not help me in the slightest.
Yeah, no. Oh my God.
Well, you know, that was their passive aggressive way of saying, like, hey man, you think about anything other than this job. Like, we need someone who's 100% committed to this horrible job.
Yeah.
That isn't, you know, like.
Yeah, it's like, come on, nobody really loves their day job. Like, anytime you work at a place and it's like just some sort of like, I'm trying to get like this thing done or whatever, you know, like a customer service situation, you're like, hey, I'll be nice to the human beings I have to talk to because I don't hate human beings. But at the same time, like, it's not my life.
Yeah.
What does Patrick do on this podcast? I feel like it's...
I listen a lot and I interject.
Okay. You are so good at listening.
I'm the best. You have no idea.
He also has a solid day job, so he doesn't want to chime in.
I got you.
That's true. A 9 to 5 is pretty solid.
If you get a day job, if you get a day job you like, that's the best thing.
I've got a day job that pays well.
It's expensive to live in Austin.
Yeah.
It's not New York City expensive, but it's expensive.
Well, no, I mean, only London's more expensive than New York. You know, and I had the best rent deal in New York. So I lived in the apartment I grew up in, and it was rent controlled, like rent stabilized. So, like, it's why I could afford to pursue my dream to ridiculous lengths. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, I can sit here and talk about how important it is to pursue your dreams and how lucky I am and how I was able to make the right moves and get lucky. But the truth is, like, if I really had to sweat rent, you know, in my 20s, in a way that a lot of people in New York do, I would have been really fucked. I mean, I got very lucky, you know, that I could work part-time jobs or work these horrible jobs. And you know, and still go on tour or whatever, and not have to like worry about being homeless or hungry, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes I let myself feel bad about the good things that I have in my life too, though, and I feel like you gotta, you know, in the same way that you make the Ganesh reference, like, yeah, you were in that position because that was the right thing for you. That's what you needed.
Right.
Like, not everybody, you know, sometimes you have to figure out that kind of stuff. There were harder financial times in my life where I've had to figure out how to do certain things. I mean, right now, my husband and I try our best to work full-time just doing theater and arts gigs, and it's hard sometimes, but because the two of us went through a number of years of really difficult, like, financial times, we know how to juggle really well, and like, we know that we don't really need X, Y, and Z, and we have friends who like go and do certain things or like spend money on stuff, and we're like, we don't need that stuff. So, you know, it's really just a matter of getting the lessons that you need in life to be able to be who you need to be in that moment. So you don't have to hate yourself because you had a good living situation. That sounds lovely.
Oh, I don't. No, I don't. Believe me, it's quite the opposite. It's more like I'm just acknowledging but I also it was like I still had financially tough times. I mean, it's not like I still had to make rent, and like I remember once